You are Sam Joffray. You are VP at the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation. You are a friend and client of Gigsy. We've known you for how long now?
We probably worked together for at least a year.
Yeah.
I think it was probably about this time last year.
The Carrier Bowl, was that the first project that we worked
We
on?
brought you guys on board to do the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl last year, which would have been December of 17.
That may have been the first one.
Right.
It feels like it's been many months longer than that.
Now, our paths crossed during the propeller pitches, and you kind of mentored me through that process.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I guess we did connect because
So we connected through my nonprofit prior to the Sports Foundation. I think that's when I kind of made the connection to say you guys
That's
should
it.
be looking at the Sports Foundation.
It's the New Orleans, 1 degree of separation.
Yeah, exactly.
So who are you?
Who am I?
Yeah. What have I missed?
Well, you've missed about way too many years of interesting transitions from career to career, but I've been a serial nonprofit, full-time employee, and kind of social entrepreneur over the years.
Where did it start?
Where did it start? The entrepreneurial start of me was probably, well, you can ask anybody that grew up on Hudson Place on the West Bank. I literally had the shoe shine kit. And I was the kid on the street that everybody knew was going to become knocking on the door either for a shoe shine or for a raffle ticket or selling snow cones out of the window of my house.
No kidding.
Yeah, so I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit's been there since then through high school and to college when I saw how much money people were making selling t-shirts to fraternities and sororities and clubs, and I went and bought a full screen printing equipment and rented a house and said, let's go live in this house and print t-shirts all day to pay my way through college.
Where was that?
I was up in Ruston, Louisiana.
Ruston.
Yeah, North Louisiana, Louisiana Tech. But I've also kind of always had that, I call myself a cowardly entrepreneur. I've always had a full-time job as well.
Oh, I see.
So I've always kind of given myself 75% to a full-time job, kept 25% to myself for whatever it is that is the idea of the flavor of the month of the year.
You could dress it up and just say you were hedging your risk.
You could hedge it that way.
You're a conscious entrepreneur.
Opportunities that came, and it was actually everything kind of came together naturally. It wasn't as calculated as I make it sound. I moved back to New Orleans. I did my undergraduate at Tech up in Louisiana, and then I did my graduate work in El Paso, Texas.
No kidding.
When I was in El Paso, I started, I guess my first full-time job was officially teaching.
What was it? What were you getting the master's in El Paso?
Theater.
In theater.
Got my undergraduate degree in communications,
Okay.
which involved one speech class and
You're kidding.
a bunch of theater classes.
But really, you were passionate about theater.
I found theater, or it found me. I was one of those typical freshmen. What am I going to do? And somebody said, you should go audition for this play. And I auditioned and ended up getting a lead role in it and kind of got hooked, and then ended up directing and designing and doing theater as an undergrad. Went and did my graduate work at UTEP. Started teaching there in the El Paso Independent School District.
Yeah.
In El Paso. So I taught there for 3 years, did some graduate teaching as well, and that was until 1995. When, at that point, just had my daughter. My daughter was 3, I think, at the time, and wife passed away very early from cancer. And made the move back to New Orleans. So where am I going to raise my daughter? I'm going to do her in the same neighborhood with the same school I went to, and just do what I know.
You came home.
Came home.
What was that experience like?
Came back home, had family here, which was great. Had
Yeah.
great friends, great support, great role models for a 4-year-old at the time that was going through a little bit. And
Yeah.
it was great to get her here into a stable environment where I could, like I said, pick her up at school every day, drop her off, and so at that point, entrepreneurialism kind of became a necessity, and I started. Found the internet in '95 via CompuServe and AOL, and started finding web pages and said, we got to figure out how to do this.
Sure.
So tagged up with a friend and partner back in the '90s, and we started saying, New Orleans has a kind of at that point, didn't have any real websites. So we went out
Really?
and said, let's go after the most endemic ones we can think of. So went to Pat O'Brien's, Superdome, started selling websites, design.
So you were a web design firm in the
Started
mid-90s.
Concept Matter started off in the 90s with this idea to do websites for clients, and we built a lot of great websites. And then quickly realized we were overwhelmed with the updating of the websites because they wanted to
The maintenance.
Yeah, the maintenance. So we designed a software that allowed our clients to edit their own website. So they could log into a back end, they could select a page, they could edit it.
You invented WordPress.
Well, I'm gonna go a step further here and tell you that within 6 months of development, we had developed what we called an intranet at the time. It was called Group Web. And it was not only a way to edit your website, it was a way for all of your employees to have their own page,
Wow.
to have their own groups within departments.
Facebook, MySpace.
They could upload photographs, they could chat, they could have private messaging.
Mm-hmm.
And then our families started using it because they're like, put all the family pages on here, and a family member will have a page.
Just keep track, everybody.
And then friends. And so we had this great little software thing we're developing in 1997. And, the genius that I am, I was like, we need to sell this for like $2,500 to $5,000 a license to companies to maintain their websites. So we started doing that. Looking back, if I had just said, hey, let's give this thing away for free to all the college students and let them have a page, then,
it could have been your face
I'd be
in
doing
the...
a TED Talk right now instead of, why am I doing this?
How funny is that? Well, listen, we have a massive following.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm episode 5, right?
Yes, but the trick about this is that we're still in so as of right now, none of them have gone live.
So I could go on at any point.
We don't know. That's the great mystery of it.
Beautiful.
This could be Christmas.
Beautiful.
This could be Thanksgiving
Or
2019.
get lost on a memory chip somewhere.
We're in the back lab right now. So we'll launch, we think after 8 to 10 produced.
Okay. Good.
So you're going to get your 250,000 views.
There you go.
So what, after this, did it grow into something? Well, first off, how do you make the jump from being a theater teacher in El Paso, Texas? You come home, you're with your daughter, which is a fantastic move. I imagine that you're so focused on being with the family. I know when I was growing up, when my parents were splitting up, it's like the family, everybody kind of meshes in and takes care of everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's so important.
Village raise a child mentality.
How do you wind up on the internet? Like, what is the what is the jump to
Well,
there?
the natural thing when I came back was, okay, I'm going to keep doing theater and I'm going to teach. So I went and started applying for teaching jobs. I quickly realized that in Louisiana school district versus Texas school districts, there were no theater teacher positions.
No kidding.
You taught English or speech, and you could do theater after school if you wanted to.
It's a club.
But it was not. I had landed in the holy grail of teaching jobs in El Paso that I didn't know about until a mentor there had told me, you landed in the holy grail of teaching jobs, because I was teaching theater, I was teaching in a block system for 2 hours. So I had an acting class for 2 hours, a directing class for 2 hours.
You could really get
design
into
class
it.
For 2 hours. It was a theater program throughout the day.
Wow.
And by the end of school, we were just doing final rehearsals and things like that. We had our own space, our own theater. So when I came back to New Orleans and realized that, not only were the salaries half of what Texas was paying, but that I wasn't going to be able to actually teach theater, I quickly pivoted, did a couple of other projects, put my theater skills to work from a design standpoint, did some design of trade show booths and stuff like that.
Interesting.
But during that is when I kind of took the leap out of necessity with the website stuff. It was
Just to
such
see.
an opportunity back then that I could not jump on it. So after designing a little portfolio of local websites, the Super Bowl was coming in 1997.
Okay.
I was also producing radio at the time. I took a part-time job at WWL Radio, working in the mornings with Bob DelGiorno and Andre Trevine, producing News Talk Sports Radio in the morning.
And had you done journalism to this point, or was it more from
But I had a communications
the
degree from
theater
college.
background? But you think
Yes.
it's a lot of the same sort of skill set where you're kind of organizing something and it's a run of show and there's a presentation to it.
Absolutely. But in the end, the communications label on the diploma probably helped more than a theater label on the diploma when applying for jobs like radio. But it was a great fit. So I ended up doing promotions and marketing for them as well. We've gone through a couple of great projects, and then the Super Bowl was coming in 1997. So I picked up the phone and I called the NFL and I said, got through to the right person and said, I think you guys should have a website for Super Bowl in 97. And they're like, ooh, that's a good idea. You should talk to the Super Bowl host committee in New Orleans, which at the time was Doug Thornton. Greg Bensel from the Saints was working with them. It was the Great Orleans Sports Foundation was the host committee for Super Bowl at the time.
I see.
So I called them and I said, hey, I got this idea. I think you guys should have a website for Super Bowl. And they said, oh, that's a great idea. You should call the NFL.
You said I just did.
Kind of been down that road.
Yeah.
They put me in touch with you. I said, can we do a conference call? Can we all get on the same page?
Yeah.
So at any rate, everybody kind of came together and they said, all right, and the host committee paid for half and the NFL paid for half. We launched the first website for a host committee for Super Bowl back in 97. And throughout the process of working with the league and the Sports Foundation as the host committee on the hosting of Super Bowl, became aware of some other media issues they were having with organizing the media at Super Bowl. Kind of raised my hand and said, we can do that on another intranet using the same technology, the group with
the sharing
software,
technology.
the intranet software that we designed. We implemented that for the media at Super Bowl, so they could use it as part of their functions on some kiosks, because back then nobody had a laptop or traveled with any kind of technology at all.
Sure.
We kind of built out a temporary technology solution for the media while they were working at Super Bowl to make it easier for them. And over the years, this will be the 23rd Super Bowl I work now as a vendor for the NFL. As part of that other 25% of me that isn't, with the Sports Foundation, I've kind of kept the Concept Matters relationships over the years with those clients like the NFL. So we do that every year now, and it's evolved from back then. It was an intranet solution for them to check their voicemails and to check incoming messages and people to leave messages.
Quick updates about the news cycle, what's happening, what to cover.
Yeah.
An editor in Tulsa wants to get something to a reporter.
A couple of years later, cell phones started popping in everybody's hands, so they didn't have any incoming phone calls anymore. So we had to pivot there and say, but you know what? They probably want to check their email now. So we put together public kiosks for them to check their email.
Wow.
And a couple of years after that, they started showing up with laptops, and we're like, well, they don't need our kiosks that much anymore. What else can we do with them? And it evolved over the years, and we still provide whatever the latest technology is the media needs to work while they're at Super Bowl, and reduce that pain point and become the front line of defense for the NFL to keep the media happy. So
was 97 the first time that a tool like this had been implemented in a Super Bowl?
For a host committee and for the media, yes, yeah.
What do you think the change was?
In 96, what they had was they had a series of big, huge bulletin boards that took up a massive amount of space in the media center at Super Bowl back then.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, the media center was held in a ballroom hotel, so space was a prime. And these billboards would be filled with Post-it notes, all under alphabetical letters, so A to Z, Post-it notes stuck up on this thing. It would be either a message from one media person to another, or an incoming phone message they'd gotten. And the media were actually looking at other people's messages. So if they saw that there was a phone number to return a phone call for a quarterback,
somebody would jump onto the number.
Yeah, exactly. So it became this kind of open security,
holy smokes,
confidentiality issue. And I said, well, we can put that on the computers. So that's when we implemented the private login with each media member to get their messages. And
yeah.
In its simplest form, we're using technology for that platform. And then again, over the years, it evolved. It still does evolve every year to what they need. Now when they show up, they still want to print wirelessly. Even though they've got their iPads, they still want to print out their hard copies so that when they're
take notes
on the radio, that they've got their printouts and their hard copies. We provide support with wireless, support with their connections, a number of different things. We're also doing it now for the college football championship game, same model. So,
what was that jump like? So, you take it from 97 and you bring it to today. This is not 50 years ago. This is not 100 years ago. This is not Morse code.
Right, 21 years.
But what you're describing is just so intensely different from a modern newsroom. What are your thoughts, or what have your big takeaways been seeing the technology transition so aggressively?
Well, it's been invaluable in the media industry, especially. I mean, we went from watching a camera crew of 4 doing a stand-up broadcast at Super Bowl. They may be from Indianapolis, but they're covering Super Bowl in Miami, and they've got their truck, they've got their cameraman, they've got their reporter, and they got a sound guy or a separate engineer. Now it's one reporter with a backpack, so that one reporter's responsible for setting up her or his own tripod, her or his own audio equipment, recording everything, editing it, uploading it, sending it back. So, what they're relying on nowadays is reliable bandwidth and tech support when things don't work, and different tools of the trade. So the industry's changed dramatically, from not only in technology, but from the way that the outlets are using that technology to minimize the resources that they have to send people to cover these events.
Have you seen the consumption change really aggressively as well?
The different types of consumption, for sure. I mean, people are getting it. Obviously, people are getting their news now in fewer number of characters on Twitter, and they're getting it over mobile devices, and it's definitely a more on-demand product now than it was when we first started. When the goal was to produce a piece at the end of the day that ran out 6 o'clock news.
Yeah.
You're now seeing them working all day long, covering all day long, posting. Something happens, somebody walks to the media center. The media center is not just where 5,000 members of the media work. It's also a place where players, celebrities will come and try and take advantage of that big, huge pool of media.
Get the coverage.
For their PR, for whatever they're trying to cover. So yes, it used to be that during the day, the big score was, if Muhammad Ali walked through the media center, everybody wanted to get an interview with him. Now everybody wants to post a picture and a quick quote and a quick bite, and they're doing it all day long. So,
wow.
A lot more people have a lot more access.
Is there a lot of burnout you see in
I don't know about
media
burnout.
coverage?
I see duplication. You'll see the same photograph basically tweeted 20 different times, 20 different ways. But it's definitely more instantaneous, and it's more of a pressure on these guys to get it now and to get it online.
To get the eyeballs online?
Yeah.
Where do you think we're going next?
I don't know. I wish I knew. I'd be working on that right now.
We too.
It changes day by day. I mean, you're watching new sectors of media come up. We were just talking earlier about esports. You've got people now that are broadcasting all day live, streaming online to millions of people who are paying them $5 a month for subscription models. So this new generation is definitely no stranger to subscription-based content. They're paying for subscription-based content because they're paying for the content that just they want.
Yeah.
Not having to take everything else that comes along with it. And I appreciate that. I see that. When I go to any of the mainstream news sites, even if I'm browsing on my iPad, my phone, or my computer, I'm really having to look for what the content that I want.
What you want.
The content that's sponsored, advertised, or cookie, because I shopped for 11 by 17 binders yesterday on Home Depot.
And now Amazon is trying to sell you 100.
Half of my CNN page is about 11 by 17 binders.
Have you ever heard the comic that said he bought an AC unit? Bought an AC unit on Amazon, and then, or maybe it was an AC, it doesn't matter. For this joke, it's an AC unit. He bought an AC unit on Amazon, and then for the next 3 days, all he saw on his pop-up and his little scroll, his banner ads, were AC units. And he's talking about how it must be really confusing. It was confusing from his angle because...
I already bought it. Why are you advertising?
Like he's going to start some sort of air-conditioned empire or something. Like it was really just a hobby. Like his collection of 100-watt AC units has only begun.
When actually the ads that should have been delivered to him were probably AC repairmen.
Yeah. Those little scent things you can put on the...
smart systems to add on to the AC unit.
The sort of lateral moves.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the argument that, at least the way that we have really seen media changing organizationally, there's always going to be a value to the newsroom, the editorial value. it's why people trust something like The Economist. They say we've got it. It's not just, I'm willing to pay for The Economist online and to get it to come to my doorstep because it's an organization that has journalistic integrity. When you talk about the subscription model, people getting just what they want, is it kind of just another one of those where people are paying for a different kind of journalistic integrity? The comparison is people will often argue and say, well, if anybody can publish it, how do we know what's real or not real?
Right.
You could be paying for something that's really a totally BS, ultra-left, ultra-right
Absolutely.
media source.
You have no idea what you're buying, just like you don't when you buy cereal at the grocery store. So I think it's a personal preference for sure, but one thing that, at least what you're doing when you do that is you're paying for editorial, you're paying for stories that were well written or written over a matter of time and well researched.
There's a quality piece.
Yeah, and that's a skill set that scares me that we're going to lose that in the near future if the trend continues of pushing media to publish faster and less and not as much editorial.
Do you think there's some exhaustion on the consumer side?
Oh, I think media exhaustion?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. I think that whether it's political, whether it's weather coverage.
There shouldn't be a 24-hour weather channel.
24-hour news cycle, I think it absolutely does exhaust people. Without a doubt, I see it in my household at least. I see it with my friends, and I hear it in conversations all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on. What's the next? You're just waiting for what's the next thing they're going to jump on.
The next drama.
What is it going to be?
Reload the page.
But not to say that all of them aren't compelling and dynamic, like the team in the cave. I mean, yeah, that's a story that if that had happened back in the 70s, that would have changed news coverage back then. I'm sure that you would have had network news covering that as much as they could without interrupting the primetime ratings. But
sure.
Yeah, there are some things that I think are very compelling long form news drama cycles, but a lot that aren't.
It's a period of transition, really.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely feel it because there's all these things happening. Long form is becoming more popular. People are super individually oriented, or I'll pay for the subscription to this person. So there's some reorganizing. There are bad actors that pop up, obviously, and then there's some really great folks that pop up. It feels like a really profound changing of the guard. I think what always surprises us is that what we have to always remember organizationally is that 20 years ago, a newsroom had a board with Post-it notes on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not an old guy. Like, you're not like some decrepit old man who's like, back in my day,
right.
when 3M would sponsor the Super Bowl. Like, you've seen the whole thing transition.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to go, heck, I don't know where we're going. We're kind of born in it, that we're the sort of millennial generation is the first generation. I mean, it's really sort of my age, like late 20s, early 30s, is like the last generation of people who will know what it was like to have a house without internet in it.
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm really interested to follow the subscription model that's happening, because I've been talking to people working in the esports industry. I've been talking to people in that age group, and everything they do now is subscription based. Their software, their video game licenses, their TV watching habits. They're paying for the TV they want. They're not subscribing to 120 channels on cable. They're handpicking the channels for the content that they want. So just like we're talking about with the news on the entertainment side, I'm going to pay $9.99 to Netflix a month because of the long form entertainment that I know I'm going to get, whether it's in a series, a movie, documentaries, or what have you. But we're seeing this subscription model apply to everything from your razor and your toothbrush of the month clubs to everything's moving to this subscription model, and
products.
It's really about what do I want and can I control when and how I get it. So I'm seeing it not just with news, but with entertainment, my music. You pay a subscription service on music, the software I need. If I don't need this software next month, maybe I don't have to resubscribe to it. So everything's kind of going to the subscription model. It's going to be interesting to see how that evolves over the next 10 years when we're sitting here talking about it. Remember back in 2018, you used to pay $5 a month for a razor or for your music or for your television watching. What's that going to be like from now?
How antiquated will that sound?
Right. We paid a lot for. we can sit here and do the old man thing and say, I used to pay for long distance phone calls on my home phone.
Yeah.
By the
Your parents would get mad at you if you were...
Right. What are we going to be saying? What are we going to be saying 10, 20 years from now about, I used to pay for internet access at my house, and then we'd have to go and get these individual subscriptions to everything.
There's not just free
what's
Wi-Fi
gonna be?
everywhere.
Yeah.
It's
And
such a
what's the
change
price
in
we're giving
regard.
up for that? So as those free Wi-Fi's pop up, and as those free offers and those free things, what are we giving away in the rights in the way of privacy and shopping habits and luckily I'm at a point in my life where I really don't care if they know what I'm buying. 30 years ago I probably would.
You're not gonna run for mayor. There's no worry about your Amazon purchase list.
Right. That's gonna be really interesting to see how much of your life is documented in 20 years from now. From like we just said, everything from what you've purchased to what you've watched to you know it's out there.
Yeah.
The data's there. Your cable box data's there.
It's being aggregated. Your ISP.
Even if you're just watching off the cable box, it's there's Nielsen ratings in every house now.
Mm-hmm.
So they know exactly which TV shows you're watching, and they know how long you're watching them for. They know what you're recording, what you stopped recording. They're getting all kinds of data from us.
Did you hear this story about? It came out maybe a year and a half ago with the last half of Mayor Landrieu's NOLA for Life campaign that they had partnered with Palantir, which is Peter Thiel's firm, to do minority report analyses of social media to sort of pre-estimate where hot zones for crime would be.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not exactly sure where I sit on that. At first I was bothered by it. Then I had some conversations with people on the data side. I had some conversations with people on the ethical side. At the end of the day, if you can take a technology and anonymously predict that from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. in this neighborhood, there's a much higher likelihood of a violent crime occurring, or a sexual offense occurring, or a sexual battery, or just like we do with child predators with posting their address on the internet.
You want to police it.
From a resource standpoint, if I am in charge of law enforcement, which thank God I'm not, because I have no background in it, but I would think that from a data standpoint, I would want to know where to deploy the limited resources that I do have.
Yeah.
Do I need them in this part of the city from midnight to 4 a.m.? Or do I need them
somewhere else?
Here?
Yeah.
Right. Because it's about response time. And I want to get the fastest response time. I'm maybe not deploying them there to monitor specific people or specific behavior, but just to have
Cover a block.
ambulances and police positioned in strategic places. We do it at Mardi Gras, and we know exactly where to put police and ambulances for Mardi Gras, and that's not a biased decision. That is based on population. That's based on a number of different factors. But so
I think what you said is key.
There is an element to what you're talking about where there were specific people, I believe, targeted, brought in, and said, "We're watching you."
Which is creepy.
Yes.
But the piece that you said about respecting anonymity, I think, is the biggest.
Yeah.
It's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
How do you, if you deal with batch data, you deal with batch data. If you target individuals, it's a totally different legal ballgame.
Right. Grocery stores did this for years, and people didn't mind giving up this information with their little rewards card when they showed up at Winn-Dixie, and all of a sudden Winn-Dixie's got this data on who's buying wine, who's buying razors,
Yeah.
and all this information, and they're selling that data off, but it wasn't specific to your house. It wasn't specific to you, and you didn't already all of a sudden start getting something. Then they started crossing a line, and coupons did start arriving in mailboxes for certain products based on that, and I'm sure there was some more nefarious technology going on with RFID back then, to where they could actually scan neighborhoods and find out who had this brand razor versus that brand razor based on the RFID chips that were placed in packaging and stuff like that. But
maybe the next move will be in individual privacy, because I've seen it especially with a lot of these online advertisers, more VPNs advertising than I've ever seen before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people are going to that, and I guess like I said earlier, 25 years ago, I'd probably be installing one on every one of my laptops and every one of my devices, just because I lived a little different lifestyle back then. Still nothing illegal
crazy,
or
but
immoral,
sure, yeah.
things that I probably would not want somebody else to have access to at a later date.
Well, now people are just posting stuff directly to Twitter.
Yeah.
It's crazy what people put online.
Yeah.
That's the biggest worry for me, is seeing what a 17-year-old will
And the
tweet to everyone.
And the same ramifications that could have later in life.
Yeah. I mean, I was just having a conversation with someone yesterday around hiring, where I called Mark Romig, and the same question I asked you yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
How much do I have to care about people's social media presence when we're hiring? Is it okay? Is that a weird cross between letting somebody just do what they do and live their life? Because there's certain things, give a crap about it. Like, you should live your life and do the things that you do.
And keep within your circle of friends
yeah,
that
we
are trusted, that you can share within.
No interest in imposing on that. But if somebody is sort of towing a long line or very influential online, how do you consider that? And I think the resounding response was, you consider it.
Mm-hmm.
It's important. It's important to understand that person has their brand and their identity, and you have your brand and your identity, and it's almost like a marriage. You have to decide if you want to get in bed with somebody and nurture a relationship with them.
Putting a Gigsy t-shirt on somebody, putting them out client-facing, you want to make sure that you have a trust level and that they're going to represent your brand the way that you need it represented.
Exactly.
Which brings up the whole NFL and issues of players' rights with kneeling. Where do you stand on the players' rights to be able to express themselves?
It's so, I wish I was more of
social media profiles.
I wish I was more of a sports fan, and I had like a really deep interest or vested, like, this is how I feel about it. My gut reaction is to always say, let people do what they want. As long as it's legal, and as long as they're exercising their First Amendment rights in the bounds of, not inciting violence or
mm-hmm.
slander or libel or being hateful in that kind of way, like.
So will you let them do whatever they want in a Gigsy t-shirt? Or do you think that's where the line gets drawn?
Well, that's the thing, because if you think that if somebody applies for a job to work with you,
mm-hmm.
there's two questions. One is the question of like First Amendment rights and what is it that people can say that is protected by First Amendment rights. The second one is, what are the contracts and limitations that you operate within as somebody who is an employee of an organization? And from the public perspective, from the perspective of an outsider kind of looking in on the thing, I think that the most noise is made from outside, but I think the most important conversation is the one that has to happen between the players and the owners. And that's kind of where it stands, because it's a player and owner issue. And as far as the conversation happening in the public square, that's a third animal. That's something entirely different once it enters, the Twitter mob and the Facebook moms and everybody on the boards all over the internet. But when you go and you work for somebody, you say, if I'm going to work for this organization, I am going to operate, I'm going to kind of fly under their banner, their flag of values.
Physically wear their uniform.
And that might mean that I don't do certain things, or I do certain things. And that's the contract that you willingly engage in.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work for you. So you can change the organization, you can advocate within it, but I honestly think the most important conversation has to be happening between players and owners, and then figure out amongst themselves, like, is there a unified front that we can operate on? Because everyone has their First Amendment rights, and it goes without saying that those are protected.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear you say that as somebody who employs people and as part of the hiring process and the firing process and protecting your brand.
It's the game.
Yeah.
But enough about us. You invented the internet and Facebook, MySpace, some Twitter in there as well.
I went into a little phase there where I partnered with a friend and colleague that you'll appreciate this one. The Sony Mavica had just come out. That was the digital camera of all digital cameras that you put a floppy disk into the back of it, and it took the picture and recorded it onto the floppy disk.
How many photos?
Oh, you could get up to 20 photos on that floppy disk.
How many
So I had looked at this technology and said, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to take this, and went and bought a bunch of them and went out, t-shirts, my web pics, took pictures of people, popped the floppy disk out, would offer them a floppy disk for $5.
Wow.
They would look at us like,
What am I going to do with this?
totally puzzled. So we had labels on there that said, go to mywebpics.com for instructions on, basically, I am giving you the negative which was unheard of back then. You don't give away negative.
Yeah.
Professional photographers never give a negative. They hold on to that. We were saying, no, we're giving you the negative. You got a digital picture for life right here.
Yeah.
Congratulations. We sold it as a promotional tool. We were at hockey games, giving them away for free. We were at Mardi Gras with vendor permits, going up and down Mardi Gras parade routes, taking people pictures and trying to sell them for $5 a pop.
Did it work?
Yeah, we did it at Pat O'Brien's for a little bit. Well, what worked, and what was crazy about it, was that they would come to the website, read the instructions, and then send us an email saying, can I order an 8x10 print? So I'm like, all right.
Now you had to open a print house.
So we opened up a little mini print house for those few requests that started coming in, and we would mail them for $25 a 8x10 print.
Sure.
And then those print orders just kept coming in from people. I was giving them the negative.
And they wanted you to do the printing.
To do the printing for them. So we did a little bit of that with on-site printing and all that. But we were people did not understand at that point what a digital photograph was.
Yeah.
They had no clue. Because we were at baseball parks doing it, and but everybody wanted the print. Nobody wanted the digital.
Something to put on their mantle.
Now everybody wants the digital to put on their Facebook, their social.
Yeah.
The digital camera booths, the party setups. Everybody still wants to get in front of a traditional camera, but they know what a digital picture is now.
Yeah.
So that was another one that was probably more for a show called Why Didn't I Do This? But it was short-lived, but fun and exciting, and just a couple of years ahead of his time, because it was maybe 4 or 5 years later when everybody started to get a digital camera in their hand. And then, of course, the phones changed everything.
Have you ever had the thought that maybe you're too early?
I was definitely too early on the technology stuff with a couple of swings and misses there.
But whatever you start next,
it wasn't a constant matter, so it was a swing and a miss. I would call my web pics, but kind of a swing and a miss. We did in 1999, I started a trade show, a consumer trade show, on the floor of the Pontchartrain Center with Bob Del Giorno, who managed or owned the Louisiana Outdoor Show. It's a Superdome every year, boats and
you go walk around and see the pontoons.
Consumer trade show. So in '99, I was getting so many questions from people who didn't understand what a digital photograph was, didn't know how to get on the internet still, or were trying to compare choices between Earthlink versus this dial-up versus the dial-up, or buying home PCs, digital photography, cybersecurity. So we started a trade show in '99 that was. We filled up the floor of the Pontchartrain Center, and it was kind of a one-stop shop, come in and learn everything and compare. Cell phones were just coming out, and to go shop your cell phone plan, you had to go to 4 or 5 different malls, to 4 or 5 different providers.
Because they were so different.
And nobody really understood, and they were charging by the minute versus by, all these different plans. Why don't we have one row where you can come and you can look at Nextel, and we can look at the AT&T plan versus the Sprint plan versus.
And the vendors must have loved it.
Yeah, it was awesome that first year. We didn't end up continuing it the second year because we didn't get to the point. We wanted to move into the convention center downtown New Orleans. We had plans for that, but the partnership stuff didn't work out. But it was another one that had some prospect, and of course, there's the big consumer electronics show out in Vegas that took off at the same time.
Became the huge.
Yeah. But
you're simultaneously an early adopter and early creator.
I definitely like to early adopt, and then I'm always on the beta side of things. If there's a beta version out there, love it. Can't get more excited about something that's in beta form, and then trying to anticipate how we're going to use this or how can we use this.
Sure.
So same thing as Super Bowl. How can we configure a really easy way for guys to wirelessly print from their iPads or their or how can we find a way to get them online easier, make their process better. So yeah, I always trying to anticipate.
So how does that? So you said your main hustle is at the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation.
Yeah, that's been my full-time job since 2000.
I don't think a lot of folks really understand the importance of organizations that do sort of broad stroke advocacy for the city.
We've been around for 30 years, and I have to tell a story to people all the time. Jay Cicero, our president, tells a story all the time, gets asked, what exactly do you guys do?
Yeah.
Because we are kind of the silent assassins behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We are the organization that been around since 1988. If there's a bid process for a major event, we head up that bid process.
What makes it a major event?
Economic impact, the number of hotel rooms, how much, what they require of a host city.
Okay.
And in that competitive bid process, it can be everything from free venues to hotel rooms to transportation models to the specs are all over the place from a Super Bowl to an NBA All-Star game to a Final Four to a World Cup. I mean, they're different requirements that are 2 to 3 inches thick in a binder.
So people don't really understand that the sending an all-star game to a city doesn't. You don't just pull a name out of a hat.
It's not just 2 phone calls to say we want to come to New Orleans.
There's a binder of consideration, and then somebody at the city has to go over.
9 times out of 10, it's a competitive process. So you're competing, just like Amazon's trying to get cities to compete for their headquarters. These event owners are getting cities to compete to host them. So you're having to put together the most compelling case, offer, and incentives for them to come to your city versus somebody else's.
Yeah.
New Orleans, a lot of that work is done for me already in the sense that we have the French Quarter, we have walking distance to the Superdome from all the major hotels. We have a lot of inherent business advantages. It's much cheaper to produce an event here in New Orleans. So, we've got those standard things, but then we still have to get granular with each event and come up with the special sauce to make them say yes, New Orleans, over another city. So we're the organization that does that on behalf of the whole city. We work closely with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Tourism Marketing, the City of New Orleans, the Superdome, the Convention Center, to pull all these different pieces together, assemble them into a proposal, and then sign the documents. Somebody has to actually sign and say, we're going to do this 4 or 5 years from now when your event comes.
And that's how far ahead these organizations
Most of
are
them
looking.
are 4 to 6 years out. Yeah. So somebody, and having 30 years of experience with the host committee, with the Sports Foundation serving as the host committees, these national governing bodies recognize that, and they know that it's the Sports Foundation signing the bid documents. They're going to also be the ones to help manage the event, because that's part 2 is we don't just attract it, we then service it. We have a full-time staff that does everything from transportation to volunteers to media and PR, ticket sales. We help support the event. So we, again, 9 times out of 10, we'll have the same staff in place to service the event when they come that we had the last time they were here. So when Super Bowl was here, or the Final Four was here last, our same core staff.
It's institutional memory.
Right, and planning and experience and budgeting, and there's a great confidence that comes with having the same people every time. Whereas in other cities, believe it or not, a Miami, a Dallas, if they go put together a bid to host a Super Bowl, they have a committee that comes together, creates the bid, then that committee goes away after it's awarded, and then a couple of years later they're forming a host committee, and they're going out and they're getting new people, and they're having to go open offices and get equipment, and hire staff, and all that to put it on for 2 or 3 years, and then that host committee goes away. So,
but we have it continuously.
We have this sustainable model here in New Orleans with the Sports Foundation.
Maybe this is a dumb question, but I think the whatever you answer will bring up an important consideration. How important is tourism in these large events to the city? Because I distinctly remember hearing have heard quite often folks going, well, why are we giving money to these people? Why do we need a New Orleans & Co? Why do we need a Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation? It doesn't make any sense. How important is it to have this kind of organization?
Well, tourism is our backbone. Agree with it, not agree with it, like it, not like it. Tourism accounts for a significant part of our economy.
It's something like 80% of our city budget.
I wish I was Steve Perry and could rattle off the numbers for you like he can, because if you get him in here, you'll get all those stats. But, everything from service employees to, the French Quarter, the restaurants, everything that makes these events so special here. But the economic impact is measurable and it's undeniable. The PR impact of these events of New Orleans as a destination is undeniable. Billions of impressions whenever we host a Super Bowl of New Orleans as a destination city. Same thing with Final Fours and NBA All-Star games. So we look at it two ways. We look at here's the direct economic impact. Here's what we know the state is going to realize from additional tax dollars generated. And that's indisputable. Here's how many hotel rooms they're going to have. Here's how much money they're going to spend with local vendors.
Mm-hmm.
And then, some people argue that and say, well, you're displacing something else. But we're very calculated when we bid on and place an event to make sure that we're not displacing one golden goose for another one.
Sure.
So Mardi Gras is a great example. We have 2 weekends of Mardi Gras. If necessary, we're not going to cancel the first weekend of Mardi Gras to host a Super Bowl. But we'll certainly try to move it up a week so that we can have the first weekend of Mardi Gras a Super Bowl weekend, and then the second weekend of Mardi Gras.
And just run it.
Would you rather have 2 great weekends in a row or 3?
Yeah.
So we're very, very calculated in making sure that we don't give anybody that argument that, hey, you displaced other business to host a Super Bowl.
Sure.
Or an NBA All-Star game. So we generate the reports that show what the direct tax impacts are. And then there's also the community aspect. So what happens when you're hosting a Super Bowl around the community? Not just the direct effect of youth clinics and charitable contributions and all the positive things that happened with it. When WrestleMania was here for 2 times in the past 4 years, and what they did in the community was amazing, working with organizations like Son of a Saint and Nord. And
is it true that was the biggest event in the Superdome ever?
It was, in a number of ways it wasn't grossing, gross numbers that were generated in sales. I don't think it was the biggest attendance number, but definitely for gross revenue.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So, their impact on the community is 30 days long. They're here for over a month doing things in the community.
Wow.
NFL Charities is donating money to redo parks and playgrounds, and the Super Bowl turf from the Superdome goes to Harrell. There are things like that happen. And then there are other byproducts. Over the past 20 years with all the events, I created a little kind of volunteer thing I did on the side where I would invite high school students interested in journalism to come be part of the events as a member of the media. And we would get them credentials to sit in the press box, photo positions to be on the sideline, and they would get an experience for a day of what's it like to cover.
To be a professional journalist.
Right. But it was a one-day event and a one-day program. And those kids would go away and I'd get a new crop the next time we had an event come along.
Sure.
But so when Women's Final Four was here in the early 2000s, they saw the program, loved it. It's now a permanent part of their hosting requirements of every city. It has to do a junior journalism program.
Wow.
Women's Final Four.
I'd love to, because we're running down on our time, but I'd love to end on this point that you're going into with the junior journalism program.
Yeah, it's an example of one of the legacies from these events. So last year, we did it for the NBA All-Star Game. We did it for the New Orleans Bowl. And I sat down and I said, you know what? This is a great program of a one-day experience, but needs to be more sustainable. So went and started a 501c3 separate organization to where now the students come and they can earn their credentials to go cover events. So we have a permanent newsroom. They come in, they work, and they may cover Friday night football for a couple weeks for high school. Then they're going to get credentials to go cover a Tulane football game. Then they're going to get credentials to go cover a Saints game, a Pelicans game, a WrestleMania, a Sugar Bowl, a New Orleans Bowl. So it's a full-time year-round program now after school to where they come in. And not just sports. We're doing everything from theater reviews to culinary arts. Any passion that a student has, we'll find a way to turn them into a journalist for and let them see that part of being involved, because just like not everybody can be a professional athlete, but if you are, that's where you want to work. You can be a journalist, you can be a trainer, you can be a coach, an assistant coach. There are lots of career opportunities in any field. So we've kind of picked this one and said, if you want to learn more about it, participate in the program. So we're looking for students right now for esports coverage, because that's so much the video game tournaments are popping up. a lot of video game enthusiasts out there that know they're not going to be the next ninja, but want to be in the heart of it and be commentators or experts in the field or producing tournaments. It's a great way to learn about the back end side of the industry.
So it's an awesome experience to get to actually be. I mean, when I started in photography was through journalism.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing that quite compares to that experience of being at these events and the excitement and the coverage and the access and just kind of having your hands on it, whether it's a concert or a ball game or a protest. There's just nothing in the world quite like it, coming at it from the perspective of journalism. What's your end goal? Like, what are you hoping outside of the experience that all these young folks locally move into?
In our first year, we hit our first goal was we want kids to pursue the career through college or on the technical side to go on to the next step. So like last year, our first graduating senior went on and she is now a journalism major, but she had a portfolio for her college application process that was, I covered these 12 events throughout the school year, and here are my published works, and here's, So we want to enable them that if this is a career choice they want to make, that either emboldens, it either strengthens them in their college application processes, or on the technical side, that if they decide that, event photography is what they really, really love, do you need to go get a 4-year degree to be a sports photographer, or do you need a good apprentice and a good mentor and a good portfolio? So we're giving them that alternative as well, and I think you see that as well on the video production side.
That's music to our ears.
Yeah. Do you need a 4-year degree to produce a kick-ass broadcast, a podcast, video segment, or what have you?
Mm-hmm.
It's really about the final product and who trained you and who brought you up to do that.
That's it.
So we want to be that, and we're also a valuable resource for college interns because we use college interns to mentor the high school students.
Sure.
So now we've got college journalism majors that are on the sidelines for a Saints game helping a kid take his pictures, and that's an experience that a college student tells
It's always
us,
a great
they tell us
experience.
all the time. I'm not getting this opportunity, from my university is not providing this opportunity for me. So we have more intern applications sometimes than we do student applications. We're actively recruiting students and interns always.
Yeah.
And, J.R. NOLA, the New Orleans Junior Journalism Program.
They can find you at J.R. NOLA if I Google you or if I...
New Orleans Junior Journalism Program.
They'll see you around.
It's a mouthful, but you'll find us.
Man, Sam, I could go for 7 hours.
Yeah, that went really fast.
We've got 40 other topics. We'll have to get you back on in a month or two.
Next time you have a set.
Next time we'll have a picture hanging.
Okay. You can always put something in there and post, right?
Put a little hanging CGI something.
Yeah.
Little chandelier.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Next time, it also needs to be a 5 o'clock podcast with cocktails.
Oh.
So I don't know why you're doing this.
Oh, see, I'm
on
the early
Tuesday.
bird.
9 a.m. on a Tuesday.
That's totally my
We're
fault.
talking Fridays at 5 with a couple of cocktails. You're going to get some great interviews.